answering the problem of evil, this is not merely something that the Christian is accountable to. All belief systems, everyone has to deal with this problem because everybody knows the world is broken. In the East, evil is basically considered intrinsic to creation. It's part and parcel of the created world. You can't create without having evil in it. This is what the yin and the yang is all about, that Chinese symbol that you see, where you have the white and the black, you have the dark and the light, you have opposing standards, but in each little light there's a little bit of darkness, right? So in each good there's a little bit of evil, and in each evil there's a little bit of good. Hinduism teaches that evil is part of the fabric of the universe, and good cannot exist without it. In the ancient Indian writing, one of the epics, Mahabharata, wow. One sage proclaims, "I do not see any creature in this world that lives without injuring others. Animals live upon animals, the stronger on the weaker. No act is entirely devoid of evil." And an old Indian proverb states that the snake eats the frog eats the cat, the frog catches the fly, and so on. That's the idea, that all life is nourished by life, that the stronger will prey upon the weaker. That's just part of the way this works. And it can't be changed. In this way, evil is incapable of being escaped in this world. Even in death, you can't escape evil, because the law of karma says that you carry your bad deeds with you into your next life. And what you have to do then is to try and live virtuously to reduce that payment a little bit. And by the way, it's not just a one. You may have a karmic debt from 30 lives in the past that you're working off now. It could be even that big. You will suffer in the next life for the sins you've committed here, which is one of the reasons why I tell folks karma is actually a very cruel taskmaster. I mean, think about it. You are judged guilty for something that you can't remember of what you've done. You have no way of making restitution for it, and you can't escape it or ever ask for forgiveness. The only way to break out of the cycle of karmic death and rebirth, suffering and pain, is to lose all of your ego, your higher knowledge, to understand, to gain knowledge in enlightenment, basically. That's the true knowledge, the knowledge that you just don't matter as you anymore. You are to, as the famous aphorism says, become like a raindrop, which by itself can do nothing, but with joined to all the other drops in the ocean, it becomes mighty and vast. So in Hinduism, you are to lose your ego, lose yourself, and then you become an unspecified part of the whole. Buddhism is worse in this sense. It teaches that evil is ultimately illusory, because all of life is ultimately illusory. It's all an illusion. See, if you have pleasure, then you'll also have pain, right? You can't have one without the other. You can't. It's almost a Goldilocks kind of thing. If you can love too much, you can hate too much. Well, how do you balance that? You come to the middle, and you don't love or hate. You don't have too much joy. You don't have too much sorrow. Everything is to be centered inside of you. Buddhism teaches that one must not ultimately lose one's ego, but one's personality as well. That the ultimate is simply an impersonal reality. The Brahman is just the is of existence. And opposed to, say, the Hindu teaching of being a drop of rain that falls into the ocean to become part of a larger whole, Buddhism teaches you are to be like a candle that is blown out. You are basically to cease to be. And that's how you get rid of all pain. Because if you experience any pleasure, even the gods are subject to these laws of karma in both Hinduism and Buddhism. Islam teaches something different. that evil is a test from God. The Sunnis teach that God creates all acts, while the Shiites hold that man is the originator of his own acts. But both hold that evil ultimately is a creative act of God to unfold his cosmic plan. Many Muslims believe that suffering can be caused by the selfishness and the evil of human beings. This selfishness and evil will lead to bad decisions. That basically you're born at what they call a tabula rasa, a blank slate. And what you choose to do with your life adds up to either positive or negative. So Muslims can overcome suffering in their own lives and help to ease the sufferings of others by following Allah's path. And that path is set out by following the Quran and the Sunnah. And God, being capricious, doesn't necessarily have to follow the rules in those kinds of things. But this is the approach of evil in Islam. It's a test, and it's a test you have to pass. And you don't even necessarily need to be able to know what the rules are. You should know them inherently. In atheism, evil is actually simply nature misnamed, right? If we are merely the product of a chemical reaction, an accident of energy and chemistry, then it is what it is. It just, we don't decry the black widow spider for eating her mate. She's not wrong in doing so. We don't throw a moral judgment on her. It just is what it is. A fire burns down a tree in the forest. Was the fire wrong for doing that? No, that's just how nature works. Richard Dawkins, in writing The Selfish Gene, 1975, writes, quote, "We are survival machines. We are robot vehicles blindly programmed to preserve the selfish molecules known as genes." That's what Dawkins sees us as. Just natural reactions dancing to the call of our DNA. And he agrees that natural selection, the things that make us what we are, grow the evolution, is nature red in tooth and claw. Of course, the superior has to defeat the inferior. Of course, the fittest will be the ones that survive. So evil is actually not really evil, it just is nature. And we shouldn't think otherwise. My question is, how does this provide you with any comfort? How do any of these worldviews help us in our problem? What would you tell someone like Eric Fitzgerald if you were the grief counselor at the hospital waiting for him to arrive? Would you tell him that evil is just an illusion? Something he really doesn't have to worry about? Or that once you get a higher knowledge, once you've sat in the ashram, done your yogas, that you will understand more fully how evil is just part of the system and you have to accept it? Would you be a grief counselor that said, I guess she just wasn't fit enough and she didn't survive? There is no comfort in any of these. As man continues to try to solve the problem of evil in his own mind, he seems to continually fail, which is why we all have the question. So what's the answer? Well, first of all, Christianity places the origin of evil and suffering in man's rebellion against God. And that's important to know. If God is all good, and he created a world, he would create a world that's all good. But part of being all good is the fact that he allows us to exercise freedom to follow him. If we choose to not follow him, we are in rebellion against him. But if we choose to not follow the Father of peace, is it any surprise that we don't have peace? If we choose to follow the Father of all comfort, is it any surprise we don't have comfort? What do you call it when you have no peace, no comfort? Isn't that suffering? Isn't that what suffering is defined as? Yet, God doesn't leave it there. Christianity is the only faith that has God not watching from afar or testing humanity, sitting there on his hill, seeing if you can make it up to him. Christianity is the only faith where God steps down into the sewer. He steps down into the evil and says, I'm going to fix this. I understand it was necessary to allow man the freedom to rebel. I'm not going to leave it there.
Thank you for watching this Come Reason video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos like these, consider subscribing to our Come Reason YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button. And you can follow us on social media. Lastly, if you'd like to help keep these kinds of videos free, consider providing a donation by clicking on the donation button beside me. Thank you.